everyone, my name is Leanne and today we are doing a book haul. So I have 11 books to talk to you about today. All of them are for grown-ups. If you are interested in hearing me talk about the books for children or young adults that have come onto my TBR recently, I did a haul where I specifically spoke about those books and I'll leave that linked, and I have another one of those upcoming, so keep your eyes peeled and subscribed if you are interested in that. But today we are just talking about the books for grown-ups. 10 of them are fiction, one of them is non-fiction, and so many of these books are my most anticipated reads of the year. They are the books that I'm going into with really high expectations. I've spoken about this on the channel before, but I do have this kind of weird mental block when it comes to hauling books. I feel like I cannot read these books until I've hauled them on the channel, because if I don't do that, it feels like it's out of process. It feels like things haven't been catalogued correctly. So I have been really resisting reading basically all of these books because I wanted to talk to you guys about them first. So without further ado, let's get into them. I'm going to start with the one non-fiction book that I have picked up recently, and that is A Woman's Game, The Rise, Fall and Rise Again of Women's Football by Suzanne Rack. If you've been around this channel a little while, you may know that reading about sports, but specifically football, is one of my biggest non-fiction interests. And I would say football is kind of my second great love after reading. And of course, I'm hugely interested in women's football. It's been something that I've been interested in for a long time, and I've been so pleased to see the resurgence, the renaissance of interest in women's football in the past few years. It has really risen in a way that is phenomenal to see. It's something that I've been interested in for a long time. So when I was doing my publishing masters, I created this whole kind of book pitch and book plan for a book around the history of women's football. Came up with all of the plans, the sales strategy, the marketing strategy, the costing, did all of it. So I'm really intrigued to see what someone who has gone and undertaken that project has done with that idea. I also have a stack of hardback fiction to talk about. So the first of those is The Trouble with Mrs. Montgomery Hearst by Katie Lumsden. You may of course know Katie from her fantastic booktube channel, Books and Things. I went to the launch of this book with Katie, her friends, her family, her publishers, and a bunch of other amazing booktubers. And it was so great to celebrate the publication of Katie's second novel with everyone. So this is historical fiction. It is set in the summer of 1841. It is a book that has a lot to do with kind of manners and gossip and class dynamics and courtship and marriage. One of the things I really love about books that are either written or set in this time period is that topic of kind of scandal and gossip. I think it's just really intriguing. I love gossip, and I find it really fascinating how kind of gossip and scandal was such a currency in those days, and how important the role of marriage was in that time as well. So I'm really intrigued to see what Katie does with that kind of setting. I believe her protagonist, Amelia, kind of goes against the grain in terms of what society expects from her in engaging with that gossip, in being interested in marriage. So I'm very excited to read this one. Thank you so much, Katie, for inviting me to your book launch. It was fabulous. So next I have a book that is probably on a lot of your radars already, and that is Queen Bee by Juno Dawson. I have read quite a few Juno Dawson books now. She's written non-fiction, she's written young adult fiction, and she has written fiction for adults. And most recently, she's been kind of recognised for Her Majesty's Royal Coven series, which is her witchy coven adult fantasy girl power series. And this is a prequel novella that is about the original coven and Anne Boleyn. Now, I don't know a huge amount about kind of British monarchy history. The only bits that I really know are kind of when the monarchy was up to no good, which in fairness was quite a lot. But I don't have a huge amount of knowledge around kind of the different periods of monarchy and Henry VIII's wives. That's a gap in my knowledge. I don't really know too much about that whatsoever. But I do recognise that in particular, Anne Boleyn is someone that seems to attract a lot of attention. So I'm very intrigued to see the role that plays in the origins of the coven in this series. And it is a novella, not a novel, so it shouldn't take me too long to read this one at all. Next I have I Love You, I Love You, I Love You by Laura Dockrell. Again, I have read a couple of Laura Dockrell books before, so her poetry and some of her young adult novels, but this is her first adult novel, and I am so excited for this. I went to an event at Waterstones Piccadilly for this. It was an in conversation between Laura Dockrell and Bethany Rotter, who is another author that I'm a big fan of, and I was excited to read this book for many reasons already. I mean, the cover is gorgeous. I've really loved Laura's writing in the past, and the blurb of this book just really drew me in. But even after that, my excitement grew when I heard Laura talking about the book. She's just so fun and witty and intelligent and thoughtful. And yeah, after hearing her speak, I was just way more excited to read this book than I already was. So this is about the relationship between Ella and Lo, who first meet in the summer of 2000 when they are teenagers. They have this very intimate friendship, but Ella knows that there's something more there. She thinks that Lo is just the most beautiful boy she has ever seen. She feels so lucky to have him in her life in any capacity. But she does struggle with the feeling of anytime Lo has a romantic connection with someone else, that really hurts. So it's about whether she takes that leap to transition their relationship into something else, to go from friendship to romance. And as I said, after hearing the author speak about this book, I am dying to read it. Next, I have Bodies by Christine Ann Foley. This is another quite short one that I think I will get to reading very soon. I believe this is about one woman's romantic and sexual relationships with men and how difficult and challenging and often toxic and damaging those relationships have been. But then there is one relationship in particular that takes that situation from bad to worse. I think this is one that you need to be in quite a strong frame of mind with in terms of dealing with those kinds of topics, but it is quite a short one. I am really excited to read it. And I also love what they've done with the cover. You can see, I don't know if you'll be able to see it if I kind of tilt it, but in Spot UV, they've put the words love, sex, and death, so they're kind of hidden messages on the cover. Next is one of my most anticipated reads for the whole year, and that is This Is How You Remember It by Catherine Prasivka. So I read None of This Is Serious a couple of years ago. It was our group read for the Irish Readathon, and I really enjoyed that book, but I have even higher expectations for this one. Because of that, I'm kind of like a bit intimidated and scared of this book. I have such high expectations for it because thinking about the subject matter, I think it's something that I will feel a real kind of connection and resonance with and get a lot of value from. But the flip side of that coin is I'm wondering if it will hit a bit close to home. So this is a book that is about kind of growing up online and having a lot of freedom to explore the internet before you really knew what you were doing and the impact that has on you growing up. So being in chat rooms and making friends online from such an early age and learning so much from the internet. It's a book that is about kind of living online, having those first experiences living online, and what it was like to be kind of part of that generation that had unsupervised access to the internet for the first time. It's a topic that I think a lot of people of a similar age to myself have a lot of feelings around, and complicated feelings around, that perhaps we haven't fully discussed and processed. So I'm very excited but very fearful to see what this book does with it. And I also have a stack of paperbacks to talk about. So I'm going to start with these two that have these gorgeous sprayed edges. The first of those is Hits Different by Tasha Gurry and Lizzie Huxley Jones. So Lizzie Huxley Jones is an author that has been on my radar for quite a while, and I've been really excited to read so many of their books, but I just haven't got round to doing it. Tasha Gurry, you may know from Love Island. I think her series of Love Island was like the last one that I watched. And she's also recently been announced as a competitor for Strictly Come Dancing this year. So there's going to be a lot more of her on our screens, which I'm excited about. This is a romance novel that Tasha and Lizzie have written together, and it's about Cassie, who is kind of in that stage of her life where she's feeling quite unfulfilled and uninvigorated by a lot of what's going on. She's not excited by her job, she's in a bit of a situationship that isn't working out, she's just feeling really kind of deflated about a lot of her life. But it is then that she is given the opportunity to have a new job in Ibiza, and it's about her experiencing this summer of romance and dancing and how that will give her a new love and energy for life. Tasha Gurry is deaf, and I love the way she wears her cochlear implants very kind of obviously, and often it's designed quite nicely to kind of go with what she's wearing. So I love that our main character is representative of a portion of the deaf community, and you can see that from the cover design as well. This feels like just the perfect summer read. Next, I have The Love of My Afterlife by Kirsty Greenwood. So I have read quite a few kind of contemporary fiction books that have speculative elements to them recently. So whether that's kind of time travel elements or second chance at life or getting to redo experiences, those kinds of themes. And this is another book that is like that. So this is about Delphi, who is recently deceased, and it is in the afterlife that she meets a man who she believes to be her soulmate. And from what I can gather, it's an admin error that results in this man being sent back down to Earth, and he is alive again. So Delphi is given a second opportunity. She is allowed to go back to her life in London, and she has 10 days to try and find this guy that she thinks is her soulmate. Not only is that a pretty tight time restriction, but this guy also has no memory of the connection that they built in the afterlife. So she has 10 days to find him and make him fall for her. I do find these kind of contemporary books that have those kind of speculative meaning of life ideas to them, they can be kind of hit or miss. I either absolutely love them or I find them kind of just really mid. So I'm intrigued to see where this one falls on that spectrum. Next, I have a book that I picked up from my adult colleagues in work. So every year, the company I work for has this big kind of showcase where the editors and authors speak to the wider company about some of the most exciting books for the following year. And I really enjoy hearing what like the adult team are up to. I work in the children's team, so I know what's coming up in that area really closely, but I don't always know everything that's going on in the adult team. So it's a great opportunity to hear about some of the books they're publishing. And one of the ones I was so excited to read was A Nesting by Roisin O'Donnell. And Roisin came and spoke to us at the event, and hearing her talk about this book really made me want to pick it up. And I love this proof as well. So this is about a woman named Kira that lives in Dublin, and she is in an abusive relationship with a man. And it's about her making the decision to escape from that relationship, to flee from her house with her 2 children, and escape from the control that this man has over her and her children. I think this book is going to engage particularly with what that is like in Ireland, and how kind of social and political and financial systems aren't set up to support someone that is in that situation. And I think it'll be a really interesting story to hear about kind of hope and resilience, and the kind of resilience that I think women often have. And of course, I'm always looking for more Irish books to add to my TBR. Next, I have Rosewater by Liv Little. So I picked this up from the Aesop Queer Library. So every year, Aesop, the kind of beauty brand, they take all of their beauty products off their shelves and replace them with queer books. So they do this for like one weekend over Pride Month. There was a little bit of a queue when I showed up, but maybe only like 20 minutes max, which I am fine queuing for 20 minutes to get a free book. And also like everyone in the queue was really good energy, good vibes. Like we were all there because we loved queer books, and all of the staff were really friendly and were handing out samples as well. It was just a really good vibe. I actually made a reel of the whole thing for my Bookstagram if you want to go check that out. And if you want to see what I'm up to reading wise in between these videos, my Bookstagram is a really good place to go. So I'll leave that linked down below as it is in every video. There were so many books there that I wanted to pick up, but you are limited to one per person. And this is the one that I decided to go for. So this is about Elsie, who is a sexy, funny and fiercely independent woman in South London. But at just 28, she is also tired. I read that and I was immediately like, this is for me. Is this play about us? So she spends her days writing poetry in her journal, and then in the nights she does a shift at like a local gay bar. There's lots of complications in Elsie's life. Like this isn't what she wants to be doing for work. She's getting rejected for jobs. She's trying to figure out how to make a living out of her passion, but it's not working out. She's estranged from her family. She's in a bit of a situationship with the girl that she works with. It's kind of about her life basically spiraling a bit out of control and her trying to save herself from falling through the cracks. I've spoken about this type of book a few times on the channel, that I love books that are like young women figuring their shit out. And I have really high expectations for this one. I think I'm going to love it. And I just totally love the cover design for this book because it looks quite unassuming at first. You know, there's a cardboard box, maybe from moving house, that has some books, a vase of flowers in it, but then it also has a strap on in it. When I noticed that about the cover, I was sold. Okay, everyone, they are all of the books I'm going to talk about today. I do appreciate I have got through these pretty rapid fire. But as I'm filming this, I am actually getting ready to go see Taylor Swift, which you may be able to tell from the Taylor Swift t-shirt. If you've any thoughts on any of the books I have mentioned, do leave a comment down below. Let me know if you've already read them and what your thoughts on them were. Or if you have any book recommendations for me, do leave them down below in the comments. I'm feeling pretty hungry right now, so if you want to leave me your favorite food emoji to let me know you're here, if you don't have anything in particular to say, leave it down below. That is it for me today. As I said, all of my socials are linked down below in the description if you want to hear more from me. And do subscribe if you want to hear more of my ramblings about books on the channel. That's it for me today. I hope you're well and I will speak to you next time.